Hi, this is another Seaspring podcast, and it's part two of talking about unhoused pets and their humans. And I'm here with Jesse to finish our conversation. So let's go.
Okay, so we had gotten to resources.
Yeah, I think I had asked what hopes do you have for the future for Victoria's situation with pets and homelessness?
Okay, yeah, right. Okay, so what I was thinking and discussed with a few people is that we do have quite a number of shelters, and I'm aware we don't have enough space for people.
Yeah.
But there is space and dry space and stuff that could be used for the animals, and there could be a position that's created within these shelters so that at least a couple dogs, couple cats can come in.
Yeah, totally. This would be kind of cool to have like a wash station even for your
Yeah,
dog. You
yeah,
just
and then
like,
that keeps down.
yeah,
So we could keep down the fleas and stuff. Because the
yeah,
thing is
totally.
the people on the street with with animals, when it comes to flea treatment, deworming, and then of course with mange and stuff,
Yeah,
and it's a lot, especially because we have so much rain in Victoria.
yeah.
So it causes infections, and that's vet bills, and obviously there's no money for vet bills, and we only have I think it's one resource. I mean, we have a few charities, a few local independent people who sometimes will help you pay your vet bills, but there's no organizations really. And but we do have vets for pets. But that's like located within our place society, so it's not exactly.
When I was last at Rock Bay, I saw a sign saying Vets for Pets was going to visit Rock Bay as well. So are they joining with Kool-Aid, do you think?
Well, I think that might. I don't want to say for sure, but
Yeah.
they might be. The online resources for this was kind of tricky to locate. There's not a lot in solid print. It was more a lot of phone calls, and that was also another problem was trying to figure out what we do have to offer, unsheltered people with their animals.
Yeah.
And so, I called a couple of places, and I'm not going to name them because, I don't want to be shooting down places that do help.
Right.
Everywhere is underfunded, overworked.
Yeah.
But it was discouraging that they didn't have a lot to say, and it was just the basics was like well, what can we give them? What can we do? And it's like everything that I already knew is what they were telling me, and I was like, so you guys don't have anything new to tell me? And I was like, well, okay, so what we need is we need a homeless pets project. Like that's what we need.
Totally. So, do you know anything about what other cities are doing that better than us?
Well, that's the thing is when you look within Canada, it's a little discouraging.
Oh, Canada.
But I would say, well, even Alberta, Calgary, like the resources, they're kind of hard to track. And to be
Hard to
honest, there
track.
was not enough time to track all of the resources throughout Canada. I was focused more on BC.
Yeah, yeah.
And BC seems to have a massive problem with how we deal with pets and
Yeah.
homeless pets and stuff compared to the rest of Canada. It's honestly a little embarrassing. I didn't realize for a place that we preach to be so. Mm.
I kind of think of it as because we're so well, not conservative, but we're so traditional. BC is very traditionalist.
Yet we claim we're
We're
a
the
hippie free
last
feeling island.
we're the last province to change all the policies across the board. We're the last one usually to change policies and update stuff. And I think it's fitting because there's the word British in our title. So
Yep.
go colonialism.
Oh, it's not all is not well on the island. Yeah. So what we need is a pets project.
Yeah.
But with that, I think why not have a shelter that is it's just for like the unsheltered and their pets,
Yeah.
and then we could have a
You
lot
could
of
even have a dog one and a cat one separate because they don't like each other.
well, yeah, and it's not that hard to divide it up and
Yeah.
then get some vet care in there,
Yeah.
and that's hours for vet students, and there's ways to make this work, but no one wants to put the work in. So it's like we got to find enough people who are passionate about this because there's got to be grants, there's got to
And
be
there's
someone.
NIMBYism for zoning laws and where it's
Yeah.
going to go. And
Well,
yeah.
with the right mentality on this is going to save money. This is going to save
Yeah.
our healthcare
I
system money.
I just want to explain NIMBYism in case the person listening doesn't know. It's not in my backyard, and it just refers to the tendency of people to not want to see human suffering, so they don't want to have resources for unhoused or anything lower class in their neighborhood, and it's part of gentrification. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, you know me, I've lost my place, and
Oh
you're gonna get me
no,
back on track like you always
squirrel.
do. Squirrel. Yeah, that's the ADHD thing, but that's okay. We'll get back on tracks.
Yeah. We were talking about Homeless Pets Project.
Yeah. So if we could get those resources together and get just the right kind of people, because to keep something like this afloat, you gotta love animals. You gotta have a passion for them. It can't just be a hobby.
Yeah.
Because that's the problem is a lot of these independent projects that start up, they fizzle out. And that's because a lot of these people who start them up, it's to get their volunteer hours and stuff like that.
Like a side project,
So,
or a side hustle.
So that's where that lived experience comes in, right?
Yeah.
Because if you get someone who feels the way feels the way I feel about animals, you're gonna have that person make sure that project never fails.
Yeah.
As long as they live. So
tell us how you feel about animals. Go ahead.
Oh no, I don't want to get all emotional here. We're not getting emotional, but
Well, I'm getting emotional.
Well, the way I don't know. This the thing is that the way I feel about animals, it's rooted in the fact that it's also how I feel about humans. I experienced foster care. I've experienced some pretty bad living situations, and not a lot of kindness from humans until Seaspring came along. To be honest, and that's 27 years of just kindness from animals. So it's kind of changed how I view them. But I think we would all be a lot happier if we all learned how to have a companion animal. I think they can really, bring you back down to earth and give you empathy and, help you connect as a human being rather than what we are turning into in this society. And honestly, it feels like we're all just turning into robots at this point.
Robot wage slaves.
Yeah, robot wage slaves. And that's and the only time I see people ever connecting back to just who they actually are is if they're outside and they don't got their phone in their hand or they're petting a dog, right? Like it's just nature
so
brings
mindful.
them back.
Yeah, I remember when I had my cat. I named her Amazon, and to reclaim the name for the rainforest, and she's this like feral hunting kind of cougar cat, and I named her Amazon. And if I was stressed, I remember I would just go and pet my cat for like an hour, and it was so mindful to just sit there and just petting, and she loved it. She'd purr and purr.
And people don't realize that, and you see. And it sounds extreme because when you say this type of stuff to someone who is, say, not an animal person or someone who hasn't had the chance to see if they're an animal person, you start feeling silly and you start apologizing and you're like, oh, I must seem a little extreme on this. And what's actually extreme is that you have no idea how something as small as a cat can hold a human being together for 15, 16, bad numbers years, And so,
we should definitely mention the tendency with millennials to not have children and to instead have fur babies.
Well, that's the thing. Again, I feel ridiculous, but my cat was I would in my head and to some select friends, I would address her as my kid, my daughter, my child. Yeah. And that's how I did view her. She, that's how I shopped for her to her vet. Everything was just as if I was taking care of a child. And so that's another thing is when you're on the street and then say you lose your animal, imagine that, because I have...
Sorry, when you're on the street and you have kids, do your kids go into foster care immediately?
So I would have, I have no idea because
I
feel like that's a thing, but I've also seen parents and their kids living out of cars. So again, I think it's more of a...
Because in the shelters, I've never seen like a mother with a child.
Well, no, there's family shelters. There's there's family shelters.
So it's segregated from everybody else.
But I know you can't just pop up onto like Pandora with your kids. Yeah. But then there's workers again. That's a whole other process. That's a whole other podcast. Cool. Wow, we got off track. Right. So, just looking at the fact that when people on the street lose their pets, that's a horrible thing. And imagine the mental state they're already in, and then they're not receiving any support, and their support was that animal. So that can cause them to go into grief. It can cause if you're depression, bipolar. It can cause you to go manic.
When I was staying at Rock Bay, there was this kid, and he was severely addicted to heroin and was very thin, emaciated, and really his health was declining. But he had this adorable cat that he just loved, and the cat's name was Caramel because the cat had the red on the head and the tail and the white body. I'm not sure what breed that is, but his name was Caramel. Anyway, this poor cat passed away. And I didn't really know this person very well, but I definitely noticed after his cat passed away, he got even thinner and even more withdrawn. And yeah, I remember feeling for him because that's rough.
Well, it is, and then people don't take that seriously, actually.
Mm.
And yeah, from personal experience, yeah, I lost my cat in August, and yeah, you do. You stop eating, you stop sleeping, and again, not everybody. Some people can
Yeah,
really get through it, but
it's grief. Yeah,
it's based off of supports, and so it's all different. But
yeah.
for my situation, having no family around, having and, so my only connection that I've had to life was that cat. And so but people don't take it they don't take it seriously, and so that's why when I see people on
Now,
the street, I get it.
when you say people don't take it seriously, are we talking about, the stupid boomers? Can we
Well,
rip
no, I
on the
mean, well,
boomers
obviously,
for a bit? I
well,
want to
we
rip on the
can rip
boomers.
on the boomers, but have you ever noticed a lot of them boomers have cats, right? So it's kind of like, is this the one thing we leave them alone on? But then again, they're the ones who are messing us about with these rentals not allowing pets. Yet they'll let 5 kids, live in a 1 bedroom, but the
Yeah.
cat that sleeps on the pillow, yeah, that's gonna damage the place.
Yeah, I just find it interesting if we could be more specific. I can't talk specific about um, not who's responsible, but like the factors leading up to the problem, I suppose.
Well, the
Yeah.
thing is, it's actually hard to kind of pinpoint why
Like
animals.
there's definitely like a middle class misconception about homeless people who are unhoused with their pets not caring for their pets, which is not true for the most cases. And of course, there's going to always be one or two cases where there is neglect, and those get highlighted. I find.
Well, they do,
Yeah.
but then you think of the let's say trillions of neglect happening in those nice fancy homes,
Yeah. Yeah.
and but the thing is there's some walls around that, right? So that's the thing is anything that an unsheltered person does, it's all happening behind the closed doors as well. But the only problem is they don't have walls, and so they
No
are in the
privacy.
spotlight.
No
So then
privacy.
they are made literally the poster child, the poster child of what not to be, and it's like
You're like
it's insanity.
your society's failure in incarnate with no privacy.
Well, yeah, the
Yeah.
hypocrisy.
Yeah.
Again, you could go on and on and on about it, but we're talking about pets here, so we gotta
Yes.
stay on topic. And hey, I got us back on topic. That never happens.
Sweet. You've got 3 minutes
Oh, we got
left.
3 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, so again with the resources, there are just little bits within some of the shelters, Kool-Aid. It's really you have to dig to get any resources. There are there's the pet food banks. There's and we got one that in Souk but mostly it's there's no independent places, right? It's well, this is a place that offers the human services, and then occasionally there's a few pet items donated.
Yeah.
But then there's also what happens when you're out on the street and you acquire a dog, but you don't know how to care for them, and you want to do your best, and that dog's going to help you. So what we need to do is make sure that people on the streets who have pets are getting resources, because these pets are going to make them better. They're going to be an asset. They're gonna take the strain off of a big strain off the healthcare system. And we don't have mental health care in British Columbia. We just don't.
We just don't.
So anything that gives you that
It's on
mental
paper,
health care,
but that's it.
anything that gives you mental health care,
Yeah.
we got to fight to keep that.
Yeah.
And I'll never stop saying it. Animals are needed, especially with the most vulnerable in this city.
Yes, I agree. 100%.